Ever get one of those phone calls that just makes your blood run cold? Like you pick up the phone and someone's telling you your grandson's missing?
Oh, wow.
That's exactly what happened to Kay and Larry Woodcock.
Oh, gosh.
7-year-old grandson JJ just vanishes.
Yeah.
Poof, gone. Along with his teenage sister Tylee.
And
And the deeper they dig, the weirder this whole thing gets.
it's a real rabbit hole, isn't it, this case?
Yeah, it
It
is.
just spirals out this web of like unsettling events,
Right.
twists and turns. You start to wonder about everybody involved.
You brought a stack of interviews and narration for us today.
I did, from Mommy Doomsday.
Mommy Doomsday. So we're going to dive into the case of Lori Vallow and see if we can untangle this whole mess.
See if we can figure out what happened to these kids.
Yeah, well, it's one of those cases, it pulls you in right away.
Right?
Because on the surface, it seems almost too normal.
Right. Lori Vallow, the all-American dream, Mormon upbringing, a few marriages, even competed in the Mrs. Texas pageant. You're almost expecting a story about someone whose life went exactly as planned.
Right.
But the podcast's telling a different story, isn't it?
It really is. It's like looking at two completely different people.
Yeah, exactly. One side, you've got this image of like the perfect wife and mother.
Right.
And Lori seems to really be working towards that, especially back in her pageant days.
Yeah.
But then this other Lori emerges.
Darker, more complex.
Yeah, definitely more complex.
And her son Colby, he really gives us a look behind the curtain, doesn't he?
He does. He talks about how close he was to his mother.
Right.
Almost like he was her confidant. Even as a little kid, they moved around a lot.
They did.
And Colby kind of felt like he had to grow up fast,
Yeah.
to support her.
Yeah. And I think what I find fascinating is this whole idea that she's searching for stability.
Right.
Like that perfect family life.
It's a driving force for her.
It is.
But all her choices just seem to cause more chaos.
Makes you think maybe the stability she was looking for was more about appearances than reality.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The picture, the image of the perfect family. Maybe that was more important than the actual family.
Well, that chaos, it really explodes with her third marriage, Joe Ryan.
Right.
Colby actually opens up about the abuse that he allegedly suffered at the hands of his stepfather.
Oh, wow.
And then there's this chilling story. Lori's brother Alex attacks Joe with a stun gun, threatens to kill him.
That's intense. It's a whole other side to them, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
They're fiercely protective, Lori and her brother.
Yeah.
Almost frighteningly loyal.
But then things seem to settle down again when she marries Charles Vallow. This is where Colby and Tylee finally experience some of that stability. And they adopt JJK and Larry Woodcock's grandson.
Right.
JJ's story is just heartbreaking. I mean, born premature, exposed to drugs, diagnosed with autism, life really dealt him a tough hand right from the start.
It sounds like he had a lot of challenges.
He did.
But it also sounds like he was really loved.
He was. By both sets of parents, it seemed like a really happy time for everybody.
Yeah. They moved to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Charles is doing well.
Thriving career. JJ's doing great in school. They're embracing that island life, surfing, snorkeling, beaches, building a life together. You think, okay, they finally found it. This is their happy ending.
Right. There's a real sense of relief in the podcast. Like, finally, everyone's found peace.
Yeah.
But it makes what happens next even more shocking.
Because just as things are coming together, boom, tragedy hits again. Sudden death of Joe Ryan, Tylee's father.
Yeah.
And the circumstances, let's just say they're suspicious.
To say the least.
Yeah. Okay, JJ's grandmother, she does not believe the official cause of death. Not one bit.
She's not alone.
No, she's not. And this is where we start to see Lori change. Her personality, her beliefs, this whole doomsday prepper ideology. And then she gets mixed up with Chad Daybell, this self-proclaimed prophet.
It's like a different Lori emerges,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
It really is like a switch flipped.
Yeah, and the podcast has some pretty chilling accounts of this period.
Yeah.
From her friend April. April says Lori starts talking about people being zombies.
Zombies.
Yeah, and she even makes these lists
Yeah.
categorizing people based on like their spiritual status.
That's creepy.
It's more than creepy knowing what happens to her kids.
It's really disturbing.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, did this shift in her beliefs lead to what happened next?
Yeah. How much did her beliefs affect her actions? You can't really separate the two, can you? Something definitely changed inside her.
And those changes, they lead to the most baffling part of this whole thing. Tylee and JJ disappear.
Right.
Police start asking questions. She clams up, give vague answers. Then she disappears with Chad Daybell.
Leaving everyone in shock.
Total shock. and disbelief.
Especially the Woodcocks, JJ's grandparents. They are devastated,
Yeah.
and they will not give up. They launch this massive search trying to find their grandson. Imagine that anguish. It's unimaginable.
And then the twist that just makes your jaw drop. They find Lori and Chad. In Hawaii.
Of all places.
Yeah. Seemingly not worried at all about their missing kids.
Not a care in the world.
No. It just underscores how deep this mystery goes
Mm.
and how detached these two have become.
Like you've got these grandparents frantically searching for their grandkids.
Right.
And Lori and Chad, they're just soaking up the sun,
It's unsettling.
to say the least.
Yeah. And then there's Colby, Lori's son. He's left trying to figure out what happened to his mom.
Right.
You know, he expresses confusion, disbelief, like he's trying to reconcile this loving mother he remembers with the woman who's seemingly abandoned her kids.
Adds a whole other layer to this story, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
He's trying to be loyal to his mom,
Yeah,
but her actions, they're undeniable.
right.
It's a painful conflict for him. You can hear it in his voice.
You really can. It just makes you wonder what was going through his mind watching this all unfold.
It's hard to even imagine. He's trying to understand his mother, while also facing the possibility that he may never see his brother and sister again. Heartbreaking.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
Just a stark reminder that even now, you know, with everyone connected online, people can still just vanish
Yeah.
without a trace.
It really is.
And you're left with all these questions.
So many questions.
You had so many broken hearts.
And as we get further into this case, it seems like the questions just keep multiplying.
They do.
What happened to Tylee and JJ? Did Lori's doomsday beliefs play a role? What was going on?
And then there are all these deaths around Lori.
Right.
Joe Ryan's death, it's officially a heart attack,
Yeah.
but it raises a lot of questions.
It does, especially with her brother's threats. You know,
Yeah.
it's like all these unsettling things, they just keep stacking up
Like domino.
like dominoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it just a coincidence or is something darker going on?
That's the question that just hangs over everything.
Yeah.
The podcast really digs into Lori's new belief system.
Oh, yeah.
It's this mix of doomsday prepping and some might even say cult-like teachings.
Yeah. Yeah. It's giving cult vibes for sure.
It is.
And it seems like those beliefs, they get even stronger when she meets Chad Daybell.
Oh, absolutely.
Is this self-proclaimed prophet,
Right.
claims to have all the special knowledge about the end of the world.
And Lori's looking for something.
Yeah.
Something more.
More than the ordinary life she had,
Exactly.
and she finds it in Chad's teachings.
She goes all in.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Creates those lists, remember, categorizing people based on their spiritual status.
Yeah, it's just so creepy.
Especially knowing what happens to her kids.
It makes you wonder, how could someone believe in something so strongly that they'd hurt their own children?
Right. It makes you question everything about belief systems.
Yeah.
How far will people go to defend them? Did Lori actually think she was protecting her kids from some kind of threat?
Right.
Or did her beliefs get so twisted that she lost touch with reality?
Like, where's the line between being a fanatic and just being delusional?
I don't know. It can be hard to tell.
It really can.
And then you've got the deaths of Charles Vallow
Her husband?
and Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife.
Yeah, both of them dying under suspicious circumstances.
The timing is undeniable.
It is.
The podcast really digs into their deaths too, raises some serious questions.
Like, were they natural or was there something more sinister going on?
Exactly.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
And every layer is more disturbing than the last.
Exactly. Is there someone pulling the strings here? Or are we just seeing a string of horrible coincidences?
Driven by delusion,
Yeah,
despair.
it's hard to say.
It's what makes this case so fascinating.
It's so frustrating.
There's no simple answer.
No.
We're just left trying to make sense of it all, the complexities of human behavior, the dark side of belief.
Absolutely. As we wrap up this deep dive into the Lori Vallow case, one thing is clear. This story's not over yet. Hard to believe people can just disappear like that,
It is.
leaving so many questions unanswered.
And so many people hurting.
Makes you wonder, how well do we really know anyone?
Yeah, you think you know someone,
Yeah.
and then they get caught up in something like this.
Yeah, and they're just gone.
Overnight.
Really makes you think about the power of belief systems.
Especially the ones that promise easy answers.
Right, because the world can feel so chaotic,
It can. So uncertain.
So people are looking for something to hold on to.
Yeah, something to make sense of it all.
And sometimes they find it in the wrong places.
Yeah, and in Laura's case, it seems like she found it in Chad Daybell's teachings.
This belief system made them special.
Yeah,
Like they were the chosen ones,
right.
and everyone else was in their way,
An obstacle.
or even a threat.
That's dangerous thinking.
It is very dangerous.
It can lead to isolation.
Paranoia.
Really messed up view of reality.
And that can have terrible consequences.
Like we're seeing here,
It's a ripple effect,
right?
you know? Lori's choices, they did just affect her.
Right, they affected our kids,
Her family.
the whole community.
It shows how much our actions matter, even the ones we think are personal.
They always have consequences.
Powerful lesson.
It is.
So what can we take away from all this? From this deep dive into the Lori Vallow case?
Well, for me, it's a reminder that people are complicated.
Yeah.
There's so much going on inside.
Love, fear,
Desperation.
that need to belong.
It's all mixed up in there.
It's a messy recipe.
It really is.
I think it's also a cautionary tale,
Okay.
reminding us to think critically,
Yeah.
especially when someone's making big promises.
Right. Or offering easy solutions to hard problems.
Exactly.
We have to be careful.
We do.
And we have to watch for those red flags.
Even with people we think we know.
Because sometimes the people we least expect are the ones hiding something.
Or believing something dangerous.
Yeah, you never know.
It's a reminder that anyone is capable of anything.
Good or bad.
The line can be pretty blurry sometimes.
It really can be. And as we wrap up this deep dive, it's unsettling.
It is.
Because we still don't know what happened to Tylee and JJ.
Right. And we may never know everything about Lori's involvement. And that might be the most disturbing part of all of this.
The not knowing.
Yeah. Shows that even with all the technology, we have some mysteries. Just stay mysteries.
And we're left with those echoes of what might have been.
Chilling thought to end on,
It is.
but an important one.
Definitely.
We hope this deep dive gave you a better understanding of this case.
All its twists and turns.
The questions that are still hanging out there.
And the reminder that sometimes the truth is a lot harder to find than we'd like.
It really is. Well, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.